in charge of mats. Okay, we are live, so.
Are we good?
That's fine then. Okay. Yes.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt Goins, and I made this body of work from here to here. I primarily focus on letterpress printing. I started doing it 2 semesters ago, and it's just consumed me. It's the worms in my brain crave letterpress printing. For this body of work, I kind of have tried to, I guess, do 3 very separate things here, and all of these works sort of come from each of those. I think that this one in particular, it's called Have One on Me. It's a collection of 111 sketchbooks that I am giving away for free. You all are free to take one. I ask that you please wait till the reception on Thursday so that I don't look like I made nothing. But please don't be afraid to touch them or look at them. And that goes for all of the work on the pedestals here. Please don't tear stuff off the wall for me. That would be quite tragic. But I think that the main ending point of my thesis is definitely this collection of books. And it combines these multiple things that I've been trying to focus on with my practice. Over this academic year, I've thrown 2 potluck and print exchange parties to try to bolster community within the printmaking program. That collection of prints, the I Love Printmaking This Much, the grid of small Abecedarian prints, the host page, and of course, your invite bitch are all relevant to that. Secondarily, I've also been trying to digitize a lot of the historic materials within letterpress, which has been a lot of hand printing and then scanning them in and digitally touching them up, which I utilize pretty heavily within this piece. So all of everything printed on the inside covers, they are scanned digitally, edited for more clarity and to use with screen printing, and then screen printed on there. But yeah, I've just been trying to combine a lot of things, and I feel like I'm losing track of my thoughts. But thank you, I guess.
You want to be the filmer? Okay. You're good.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Mary Weiner, printmaker, graphic designer, general arts freak. And welcome to Motel 13. This is a place unlike other motels, as it is in fact in purgatory. Under the purview of this entity right here, the good goddess of the unlucky number 13, a deity who represents ideas that life is very much out of your control, but you can make your own luck, take what control you have in life, and be happy with your existence and choices. So the good goddess pulls the lost souls of the sort of folks who never had the opportunity to have this kind of epiphany in life into this weird sort of kind of shitty motel afterlife to hopefully have them experience the odd and the mundane and have this epiphany in the afterlife and move on to what's ever next for them, which is why she's represented by the number 13, a number generally considered unlucky, but that some circles like tattooing and me personally have taken to mean good luck, as well as centipedes. People are really afraid of house centipedes. They're so gross looking, but they're really they eat other bugs in your house. They're good to have in your house, actually. So she's sort of represented by these sort of ideas. This particular body of work is focused on one night at the motel, a party hosted by the motel manager, Crystal, who's right here, and in some of the other work. So all the other work that's here is things leading up to or after the party. whose events are related, and the audience is sort of supposed to fill in the blank. I have on this back wall here a list of all the residents with their room keys. Crystal's up there, good goddesses, all my other little freaks. I'm also interested in sort of mixing mediums, and to me the medium is just the vessel by which you do art. Like I have an idea and then I want to make it look the way I want to make it look, which is why there's this wide variety of different printmaking methods and drawing. I'm really not super interested in like making art that's necessarily considered like fine or high art. So they're all hung in these frames like they're supposed to look like they're in a shitty motel. Maybe these are in the lobby, I don't know. And I use this huge mix of methods to kind of get this variety of looks for the different characters and pieces. And it's interesting to see how the look of the characters changes in between the different mediums I use. I purposely did it in this sort of non-traditional narrative. I'm really interested in things like narratives that are not spelled out for you, where their form is integral to how they operate. I really actually hated galleries and fine art. Fun fact, I went to a STEM school for 8 long, torturous years in middle and high school. And then I went into graphic design in college, and I really love to learn love the fine arts and the craft and the concept of it all. But really my heart still in some ways is in video games and comics and music with really, really, really bad vocalists. So I think that you could definitely see that here, me sort of translating that and trying to force this narrative in a non-traditional way. I generally don't like divulging too many of the details I put in here, but there are a lot I put on purpose. Since I'm doing this artist talk, I thought, fuck it, I'll point out a few. Because I do want you guys to fill it in, but you're all here, you're spending your time, might as well give you a little more to work with. So some of the recurring characters there's Crystal, as I mentioned before, the hotel manager, and she appears there and here, and obviously in her portrait on the other side of the wall. And she has this sort of thing, she's hosting the party, this is her unit, obviously, room 013. And you can see all the other characters here in this central moment, but you can see her up here with the knight, who's down here in this place playing guitar. And I sort of wanted to imply they have a thing going on and that she got this jacket from Crystal. So if you look at Crystal in that piece, she's wearing this jacket that the knight is wearing later. And she's taking it with her wherever she's going on this bus stop out of here. And then there's also these two over here. These are mixed media drawings. They're not printmaking. You can see these two characters are getting into this fight at this party. So this is them right before they're about to beat the shit out of each other. And there they are afterwards, our winner and our loser. And you can see the checkerboard floor that's in this in this unit of the motel is also in their pieces, which actually I did those first. So I was like, well, I guess it has to have checkerboard flooring now to indicate that that's the same space. And then another one, and I really do like to let the characters kind of build their own voice. It really feels less like writing and more like I'm relaying their story. So there's some stuff here that kind of came together naturally, such as, there's this character here. She's supposed to be, when you're at a bar and there's always a beautiful, aloof woman smoking a cigarette out front? She is a robot who is built to do that precisely. And over here we have something freaky is going on here. I don't know that I know what they're up to. I know that they know. With this ashtray girl having cigarettes put on her head. And I did those totally separately. I just like the imagery of cigarettes. I think they're really evocative. But you can see over here they're hitting it off and flirting at this party, because after I did both of them when I was working on the sketch for this, I was like, oh, it's obvious that they would get along or be interested in each other. And I also, the room numbers were intentionally placed. So their rooms are next to each other. The keys all have the numbers. And one, I guess that was all the ones I wrote, but yeah, there's all sorts of other things going on. If you look around, you can see the good goddess in this one, looking through the window like a little creep, and this weird centipede cat that doesn't show up anywhere else. And one last secret. That's Matt and Zeke and I and my roommate are throwing up in the bathroom at this party. Thank you.
How close should I hold this to my mouth?
I hope they can hear me.
I think you just gotta chew
See,
it.
why do you keep trying to bite stuff?
I like biting.
Oral
Okay,
fixation.
I need that next. Don't put that in your mouth.
I'll restrain myself.
Slobbered on.
Okay.
Yeah, you can turn.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zeke, and this is my thesis show titled Streamulacrum. And where do I even start? I'll start with the title, Streamulacrum. What does it mean? Why is it the way it is? It's the title of the website, the Streamulacrum. It's the place where this all goes down, outside of the gallery, and inside the gallery, which is right there. But it's really kind of like a play on words. Stream is like internet-y, stream of consciousness, stream of content, stream of a live stream. It's just a reference to the general way of consuming media through the internet, and the rest of it is a reference to Jean Baudrillard's philosophy, simulation and simulacra. And really what a simulacra is, and a very simple way of putting it is that it's like a copy of something that doesn't have an original because the copy kind of replaced it and is now positing itself as reality. And he made that philosophy like way before the internet. But now that we have the internet, it's way more, it's super visible and a huge part of our lives. And so that brings us to these weird little creatures, the stars of my show. And I call them my archetypes because that's what they represent. They are archetypes. In the same way that, a lot of the influences are of a lot of really weird niche internet communities and less niche internet communities nowadays. The biggest inspiration might have been Wojaks. And they're these like weird guys that represent people, types of people, and like weird internet communities on the internet will play with them almost like dolls and create memes of them interacting with each other, much the way we do, much the way we don't. There's like the Chad Virgin, there's the Stacy, there's the Doomer, Zoomer, and people just make all sorts of crazy messages with them, and they evolve in fascinating ways to like almost unrecognizable creatures. And so these are my Wojaks in a sense. They represent corners of the internet that we can fall into, that we can become. And the way that they are made is they start out as just 3D scans of myself, simulation. In the 4 stages of image, Jean Baudrillard describes it as like the process of becoming a simulacra. The first stage of simulation is just a copy of something, a representational image, a picture of a tree. You see the leaves, you see the bark, it's a tree, and it's supposed to be a tree. And then I take that scan, I put it into Blender, and I warp it, and I mess with it. I make it into these new things. And that is step 2, perversion, where it becomes something else entirely. But it's still referential to kind of me. You can still see me there. You can still see my face. It's from something. And then it starts to kind of bleed into reality. And that's when I print them out and sew them together. And I create this, and I bring them into our world. And so you can see them. They're fake, but they're also not fake. They're here. You see them. They're in front of you. They don't have any materials lists. They just have their names because they're not materials. They're real beings. They're guys. They're not made out of, well, they are made out of stuff, but you know what I mean. And so then they start to bleed into reality. And then stage 4, the website, the Streamulacrum. And that's when they start to replace it. They start to become us, bickering with each other over the internet, much as we do ourselves. And so there's this kind of methodology that mimics this philosophy. And I say mimics, even though I actually created this methodology before even learning about Jean Baudrillard's philosophy. And it just goes to show how well lived that philosophy is, because it's really personified in the internet and the way, because I was really mimicking the way that we create images, memes, and share them in our, niche internet communities. And I'm using the word niche too much, so ignore that. But that's when we get to the thesis of the thesis. The main point, which is that when we go on the internet, we become these archetypes, we become these people. I get a lot of questions, or I have a lot of people asking me, are these you? Because they have my face, but they're not me. I don't look like that. And it can't be all of these people because they have conflicting personalities and conflicting ways of existing. And so they aren't me. But there are times where I am them, where I become them, where I go onto, Reddit and I become Mr. Sandbag, or I scroll on my phone for way too long. Have anyone else opened up their screen time and have been mortified? Yeah. Some of you are nodding, other people are lying. So yeah, and then I've looked up how to get jacked on the internet. I've been Mr. Skins. I've been Mr. Strumman. I've been a keyboard warrior. I've been Mr. Centrist too. I've been this is a little too crazy for me. I've been all of them in many ways in different times in my life, and I've also seen all of them. I see other people falling into these rabbit holes, falling into these pipelines that exist all over the internet. And it's really because there's these algorithms that read our data that try to come up with an idea of try to predict who we are, try to predict our identity. Every time we log into Twitter, it reads our location data. It reads how we interact with every single thing we see on the internet, and it tries to come up with an idea of who we are based off of that prediction. And it takes that prediction and it shows us content based off of that. It funnels us into these communities based off of that. It creates these archetypes. I call this the cultural and the collective unconsciousness of the internet. Because how Carl Jung posited that we are all born with this collective unconsciousness, I'm saying the internet with these algorithms and the general structure that funnel us into these subcultures, that's a new version of this collective unconsciousness that creates these archetypes based off of this geography of the internet, this digital geography. And so every time you open up Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or Reddit or whatever, you become someone else. You become a simulacra yourself. You become a copy of something. You become a copy of yourself that never existed, that was only predicted to be you by these amorphous algorithms that we cannot understand, that even the people who made them have such a limited understanding of it because it's such a complex web of information. And so that is the Streamulacrum, and that is my thesis show. So thank you so much for listening. Yes, question.
What's your favorite post on the website you created?
So my favorite post, if you can see, to show the people online, if you're watching this on YouTube years down, you can go to www.streamulacrum.com. That's STREAMULACRUM. So you can see it for yourself, but there are these posts. And my favorite one actually isn't on here. It exists and you can access it, but it's not on the poster board, which is where you access all the other posts. It's been deleted, but maybe it still exists somewhere in the fringes, I don't know. So look around. That's something I would normally not say because secrets, but hey, you guys came out here, you're at my artist talk, you get to hear some, you get to have some information that others might not. So, my favorite, here's what I'll say, it's post number 1. So that's your hint. That's your hint. And it's not the first post you see there, it's post number 1. So, yeah. T. But thank you for the question.
Mary?
Yeah.
Is this work you've done before, as in creating a whole scene and characters and letting them tell their own story? Is this your first version of this, and would you do it again?
I would say this is the most complex version of something I've been doing. Actually, there's one thing I forgot to say in my artist talk. I've played D&D for probably 10 years, and my roommate and I play together, and we always say, time to go play toys. And to me, this is the fine arts version of playing toys. So I just I'm always drawing weird people in my sketchbook and coming up with different character traits for them, ideas. This is the largest scale I've ever done it at. I've written some shorter comics and stuff that are a little bit more straightforward of a narrative. In fact, there are characters who are in this thesis who have comics written about them, but that I didn't include because I wanted this to feel a little bit more fill in the blank. So I would say this is the the farthest degree of a concept that I've done before, but I think I could push it even further. Like, I think this is just the beginning of working in this sort of way. I really want to make a video game. I think might be my next like big endeavor.
Was 112 a specific number? Did you say that or not?
111 was the number. It's all good. Actually, it was not very specific. I printed enough of the covers off to make 125, which just felt to me like the monumental number. But with printmaking, as with everything, you will have a fuck up, and a fuck up of like less than 10% is totally fine. And it's just kind of a nice coincidence that the number it ended on is just 111.
It was meant to be.
Yeah. Great.
Barry, I'm really intrigued by some of the colored, not matting necessarily of some of your work, but backgrounds. What does that do for you, and why have you put it in the show?
Well, number one, I just like bright colors. If you can't tell by the way I'm dressed in the everything about me. But also, I was interested in introducing more colors into these. I really like working when I'm making like duotone, where there's one color that's the lines and then one that is that background shape. I think you can see it the best on the night, where I've sort of carved out areas from the blue as like a secondary thing, and then you have this black line art. So I just think it's a nice way to add like a third color in an interesting way and some interesting texture. I also like paper making. I didn't get to do it a whole bunch for this just because it was adding so much time to my process that I was like, I'm gonna have like 3 pieces if I make all the paper for this because I'm not that great at it. But the pink one, the shark girl who's biting the oarfish girl down there, the paper I did make for that. So I think it was just sort of a way to pull in those textures and that color in another way. Awesome. Yeah.
How often do your characters just sit there on their own reverse?
Frequently and almost always. I really kind of let them write themselves, I feel like. Like, I just sort of let them go in the direction that feels natural. In the middle piece, I do a lot of brainless doodling, and that's where most of their designs come from. But I have a hard time like generating characters on purpose. So some of the like one-off characters who are just at the party and aren't anywhere else, I like flipped through my sketchbook and pulled out some other characters who I thought maybe would be in this world. And I think some of them like don't live here. Like if you notice in the top right piece, there's these like balloon dog girls, and one of them's at the party, but they are not on the wall here. They don't live here. And I feel like they were very much like Matt and I were like coming up with like names and gender identities for all of them and like having a fun time. Like they were clearly exerting their will over us. And we were both like, they don't seem like they live here. They seem like they've got their shit together. So they were like intended to live here, but I think their will really did exert itself over me in that case.
I got one for Zeke. I've been staring at Mr. Strawman this whole time. I'm in love with him. I understand the like double entendre of being a strawman is a strawman argument, and also strawman has a scarecrow and there's straws coming out of him. I read the post on the website about like how he can do anything. That his shirt says "I heart that." That's totally. I was wondering if there's if you put any thought into it in being like a Christ-like figure in some way, or he's propping himself up like that, or if that's just completely unintentional and I'm reading way too much into it.
You're not reading too much into it. Yeah, I mean, there's like yeah, it is assembled. It's not a cross that was built by someone that was, it's clamped onto there, and it's onto a chair, and the chair is facing forwards, and his feet are a couple inches off of the chair. And so, yeah, I mean, don't ever think you're reading too far into my work. You're never reading too far into it. Our brains are simply connecting. So, yes, good observation.
What would you all feel is like a happy accident? Okay, so like this class is like all about exhibition and like, the whole year you're planning this thesis exhibition and, you get it into the gallery. And not only do you get it into your own work into the gallery, but then you get your gallery partners also into the gallery. And, was there like happy accidents, fun surprises, devastating disappointments? I mean, any of those things with you all?
All of the above.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know if my work could have really worked in any other gallery. And I'm glad I didn't really pay attention to when we were signing up. I was kind of like, whoever's stuck with me is stuck with me. Sorry, guys. You gotta have this thing in your gallery now too. I don't care if it's about like femininity or nature or whatever. Mr. Skin's gonna be in the middle going on. But then Mary actually we ran into each other on the street and she just kind of plucked me off. And I joined their group and I couldn't be more thankful.
Mhm. We kidnapped Zeke for Friends Love. I think this was sort of purposeful in that I feel like none of our work has that much in common at all, but I think that sets it apart. I really like that our work doesn't feel like it's competing with each other, and I think getting it in the space, it looks even better together. I think we were able to intermingle our stuff in a way that you can still clearly tell what's going on. It's so different. You obviously know whose is whose, but it's still, you have this interesting gallery experience that it came together way better than I even thought that it would. So that's been nice. Here you go.
I would say that we perfectly managed to make just enough work to hit critical capacity on this room. I don't think we could have made even a single more thing. I think if anything, even one picture on the wall was missing, it would just all be shit. But we got just right.
It looks really great. You all should feel really proud. So, thanks. All right, y'all. On to the next gallery. No, you are on. I muted the general.
Hey everyone, I'm gonna grab one of my little guides real quick to keep me on track and not talking too much. My name is Sarah Homer. I'm kind of piece of just a lot of stuff that I've been thinking about over the past couple months. I've titled it Connective Tissue. When I was starting to think about my thesis, I really landed on two big topics that I wanted to find a way to talk about. One of those topics was my family and the way that they've supported me. And the other topic was my journey with chronic illness. I'm sure I've told some people, but I don't know if everyone knows. Right before we came back to school in the fall, I was diagnosed with vasovagal syncope, which is basically the nerves between my brain and my heart don't give the right impulses, and the blood from my head to my feet doesn't pump correctly all the time. It's very much like POTS, but rather than it being a heart issue, it's more of a nerve condition. And it can cause me to pass out under high stress or under, if I stand up too fast from anywhere. So a lot of this past year has been figuring out my new way of living, which is funny considering making a thesis about chronic illness. I have been dealing with a lot of flare-ups during this time and have somehow managed to injure myself multiple times, which is a little funny to me. I'm gonna kind of go through my pieces really quick and talk about them each, if that's okay. I don't know if anybody sitting down can see this first set of images, probably this side of the room better than this group. But they're the grouping of 6 blown out images, which is kind of an expansion on some work that I started last year in my advanced digital photography class. With it being mostly my coping with my chronic illnesses causing me to sort of fade into the background in my own life or disable me at moments where I would rather them not disable me. You know, having to leave classes, having to skip out on events because of either, you know, a migraine hitting me as I wake up in the morning at 9 a.m. and then I have to fall back asleep for 4 more hours and just hoping that it gets better over the course of the day, or having a vasovagal flare up to the point where I can't attend my nightly activities how I should, or go into the studio and work more on things that I would like to be working on because I can't stand for too long or I pass out. So that's very much what this grouping was focusing on, sort of me fading into the background in my own life. The central piece here is portraits of me and my family. I am not the only chronically ill individual in my family, and for a grouping of individuals who sometimes get sick more often than we would like to, we certainly do way too much all the time. We're all very busy. My dad retired from the fire service when I was in high school, when I was a freshman in high school, immediately became a cross-country coach, retired from that, and immediately went back to working at a greenhouse. He's the one person I have never seen stop in my whole life, and when he does, he falls asleep immediately. My grandma over here is in her 80s, and she's still very active. She continues to go. So I believe this is, one moment, so sorry everyone. This was titled, thank you, Family in Motion, because no one in my family ever stops doing anything ever until we're basically forced to and nailed down by some unfortunate circumstance or another. This last grouping of pieces is Heartstrings. This was kind of the work that I ended up basing a lot of this on. I'm someone who's very involved in theater, as a lot of people know, and so that kind of influences how I make my work. I work a lot in portraiture and self-portraiture because I find it's the easiest way for me to tell a story in my work, especially in photography, with it being capturing of real life. So I lean into theatrics and I lean into posing and posturing and costuming almost in my work to lead emphasis into things. With these, the physical alteration of the images with the thread and the beading was very important to me. Being this sort of, I don't know, it's not realistic, it's fantastical. It's obviously, I'm not actually pulling anything out of my chest, but it's this beautified version of what I wish I could do, how I wish I could kind of fix my insides sometimes. There are 15 beaded sets on here, and 15 was the age where I had my first vasovagal episode. At an unfortunate time, I was in the middle of a marching band rehearsal, and that kind of threw my whole evening off, but it's okay. And that was kind of the everything that I got with this. Thank you.
You're ready. Introduce yourself, though.
Hi, I'm Ari Gaub. This is my thesis show entitled Half-Formed Hope in a Strange Light. I came to the show idea because I realized as a senior I've had lots of years of education and experiences, and I knew that this was an important time to reflect, and that's how I wanted to come to the conclusion of my show today. And two major things in my past that stood out to me that I wanted to focus on were my mental health and my job, and where I was going through relating to my mental health and how it connected to working a job that was strenuous, not only physically, but mentally. And so I came to the result of these 3 works, and I was super excited to use a variety of materials. I used clay, metal, a ring buoy from my work as a lifeguard, and then this big wall piece that has a combination of paper and fibers and this iridescent blue cloth. So I guess I'll start with this big piece on the wall. This was a later imagined piece, but it came together very quickly. I used water and glue to mix the tissue paper background together, and the part that really intrigued me the most was the way I could get the natural textures in with the paper after I had dried, and I was able to just keep layering and layering and layering all these different materials together to be able to create this whole environment for this character and to represent all these different fluid parts of the emotions that I needed to push through in the work. I realized after installation with this work that the draft in here actually is moving around the cloth that I've placed around it as a sort of border, and that has been putting movement into the work. That has been honestly the most enjoyable part of just seeing this whole piece up and taking the wall, because I was curious of how that would turn out. So that it would match the feeling that I wanted to represent. And that goes more into also this figure here of falling into this water, falling into this mental vastness of watery messiness of what we have in our heads that cannot always have an ending and can really make us question our own identity and if we are who we are. And that's why I wanted to display this piece of somebody just falling apart inside of this metaphor for mental health. Going to this piece, this ready-made of the ring buoy, I had been doing research in my art history classes of different historical techniques, and I knew that I wanted some natural symbol just to speak for itself in the show, and this was the symbol that I chose. It was super exciting to see this isolated from what its natural environment would be of water and people in need of help, but excluding this from that setting, it creates this new metaphor for mental health and help and safety, reaching out that is easier to visualize when it's right here in front of our eyes. Now the specific history of it was super exciting to incorporate into it just because of the rendering of the stains and dirt on it, and that also comes into the whole message of this work and the show of how dangerous and how unpredictable, how things don't always go your way, and how even the symbols of hope don't always seem trustworthy, and why reaching out for help isn't always the easiest thing to do. And moving on to my final piece, this one is the combination of a ship and a girl who has been transformed into a face of water and ocean. And this was to represent the internal struggle and the metaphor of how people use drowning as a symbol to, or not a symbol, but as a metaphor for mental health and how that is navigated in life. I was super excited to pull together all these materials that I just found and that were accessible. And by using all these found objects together, it really spoke to how individuals, when they need help, you just grab onto anything that you need. You grab onto the nearest person or symbol or object to help pull you out of what mess you are in. And I think that using all the materials around me reflects that. And so all of these pieces really work together to speak about my journey with mental health along the years of high school and college, and the message that I wanted to share about hope, reaching out, and what it's like for people with mental health. So I want to thank you for coming and listening to my show and talk. Thank you.
I'll move around. Just guide me.
Hi guys, thanks for coming, everybody here in present and over video. My name's Elizia Perry, and this is my work. I have 5 paintings presented today. This is my first one, they're numbered. My work is about identity presently, growing up, familial things left down from person to person, like people that you know, people that you may not know. This one is a more literal representation of the masks that people wear. Black people or other people, we all wear masks. We all have to figure out how to cope in the world and how to present ourselves in a way that is safe, in a way that is accepted by, you know, the broader society. For me, it's hard, you know, reconciling being outgoing, but needing to be cautious and needing to just, yes, be cautious and watch your surroundings all the time, just to make sure, you know, nothing's going on, that's crazy. I'm from the city, but even here in Athens, Ohio, it's just good to make sure that, yeah, you know what's going on and you make sure you're not in danger. So I don't know if other people have grown up thinking about those things, but I know as a Black person, I definitely do think about those things consistently and always. Moving on, I have played a lot of games with my family and friends growing up, and this is also another thing that would connect me to other people who have played games. This is specifically like Uno and spades for me and my family, and now I am into tarot, into divination, and so I love to do that with my friends. I love to talk about astrology and the strings of the universe that connect us and the coincidences that can come out of it. I don't know if you guys are into astrology, but if you've ever done like a tarot reading, it's weird how freaky accurate it can be. And yeah, I love the seen, I love the unseen, and I love to make connections between all of those things. Piece number 3. This is my most content-heavy piece of the exhibition, and it is more about that inheritance, more about getting things from family, being taught things as you're brought up, specifically about being religious. I am more spiritual now, but religion is still so important to me, important to my family, and even though I might not agree with everything that I was taught while I was being raised, the Bible, whatever, people could probably definitely relate to that. I think it's valuable to have those tools, what it instills in you, the faith that it teaches you to have in a world, especially now that it's so crazy. Specifically representing like ancestors and people who have passed on, but also people who are still here. And for my next piece, this is more about upbringing, how my Blackness was presented to me and the way that you get yourself together, because when you look good, you feel good, you do good. And yeah, just growing up and knowing that my Black is beautiful. And any way that I just present myself and my creativity will be welcomed in my community, and I love that. And my last piece, it is an act of remembrance and inclusion. And this is a ritual, a thing that people may do. You may recognize, the iconography. You may have done it yourself. And yeah, it's just including friends who are no longer here with us and just knowing that you'll always carry them in your heart. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty straightforward for me. Yeah, thank you. Also, if you're here, feel free to take an info sheet and a postcard. Yes, Aaron.
So Sarah, when I saw those pictures on the wall, I said that Kenya was like, that's what having a migraine
Yes.
looks like. So how connected are like the migraines and your other?
My vasovagal and my migraines aren't necessarily very connected. That set was definitely more informed by the feeling of a migraine. When I initially made the kind of first draft that it ended up being in that digital class, it was titled White Hot and Blinding. And that it's very much, when I have a migraine, I get very high light sensitivity. And any light that I'm in, whether it's dim or right here, can feel just like such a burning pain in my eyes. The tie between the migraines and the vasovagal, the two issues aren't necessarily connected, but it definitely makes my life a lot harder when I'm going through multiple flare-ups at the same time.
Alizio, why the round canvases? I love it. I think it's so cool.
I like non-traditional canvases. I'm finding more and more. I've always been attracted to the circle shape, whether it's like cycles or, constant things that we go through. And yeah, I really enjoy circles. It wasn't a big choice at all. Like, I knew I had to make work, and I was like, circles. I'm gonna make 5 circles right now. So yeah, I bought them all. I painted on them. I will say it's challenging to kind of get a good composition for a circle, but I don't know. I didn't struggle this time.
Okay. With these panels being wood, can you explain how you went about making it so opaque and like the color so vibrant? I struggle with that when I paint on wood.
Oh. Well, first of all, I gesso all the canvases, sand it down. I don't know. I say I have an impressionistic hand when I paint. So I'm a thick painter. I like texture, not so much texture in this work, but I don't usually find it hard to cover.
Is it just acrylic?
It's oil. It's acrylic and then oil. So I did cover everything, mostly everything opaquely in acrylic first. First time doing that, by the way.
Well, it turned out amazing. Oh, thank you.
What is the significance of the hand within the work? It reappears throughout the entire thing.
Oh, it's an accident. Well, my whole little spiel is kind of that there are the actions you take and the things that you do. So yes, in being taught, in being raised, reared, it kind of just was a happy coincidence, I think. Yeah, so I made 3 of them and they had hands, and I was like, oh, the other 2 gotta have hands too. So it's like, yeah, very action-based and very doing and going along with the feelings also.
Ari, where are you like her?
The YMCA in Powell, Ohio.
Awesome.
I have another one for Ari. Is this also ceramic? What is the material of this?
Of what?
This is like the shit part.
of the ship was a thrifted metal object that I found around Athens, Ohio.
Also, I worked in a public pool. My condolences.
I kind of love it.
Really?
Yeah.
We had a different experience.
This is what really started, like working at public pool really started my journey with mental health. Because after I had my first save of a kid, I was starting to reflect my own journey of like growing up and safety and parents and all of that.
That's so beautiful, actually. That's really moving.
I appreciate that.
Question for Sarah. A lot of people, whenever they go through adversity, they want to quit and stuff like that. I don't know if you covered it while you were talking about what was something that kept you going, that one thing that kept you like making work and stuff like that, because a lot of people would have gave up.
Oh yeah, so my fellow photo majors know this. This has been an exercise in sacrifice for me, and realizing that more is not always better. I had very lofty ideas going into thesis and how much work I thought I could realistically not only create but fit in the space. And so it's been a lot of paring down and finding what has been most important in these themes for me. So it was a lot of self-reassessment and figuring out where these like strong emotional points hit for me. And it was the across from each other, the very personal experience with my own disabilities, and then my family's support and their experience, and tying all of that in together, and just knowing that this was something that I had to do for myself and get all of this done was really what kept me pushing through this.
I have two questions for Ari. Firstly, is there any specific personalities related to the two figures that are in yours?
Yeah, so it is, you say personality?
Like people's personalities or.
Okay. Yeah. So when I went into the image, I wanted it to be symbolized one person, but kind of all of these layers fizzling out because of the water coming in and it's like almost saturating this soul and them drifting apart in different versions of who they think they are.
Nice, that's really cool. My other question is, was there any intentionality with the way that your life circle thingy thing? I forget what it's called.
I call it a ring buoy, like
Yeah, the ring thingy, the way it frames, at least his card piece, it's like perfectly framed. Is there any intentionality about it, or just happen coincidence?
I mean, every time I walk around it, I kind of just spin it, and it provides this portal throughout the whole room. Especially between my two works, when I was setting it up, I realized I didn't want this rectangular space for my work. I wanted it to more flow into each other. So it still can move. It still frames several parts of the room, which is
nice.
In both the Ripley and in the sculpture in the middle of the room, you use found objects. Is that something that is super important to your practice? Do you do that a lot, or is it just coincidence that it's here twice now?
It's definitely been more prominent in me, or in more of the work that I've been making, not only just because of the hidden stories and histories behind random objects, like you never know where they're from. It could have a million stories behind it, but also just because it's fun to use these items that are thrown away or seen as less valuable and create them into something else that is super meaningful. Plus, I don't have to spend money.
Sarah, is there a method you use for like choosing which frame to put what picture in?
Yeah, so all of my frames were secondhand found. I found them at thrift stores around Athens. And I kind of let the frames that I ended up finding inform which piece was like kind of going to be in them. Definitely with the portraits of my family, that was more heavily informed. I knew which images I had, and then looking at the images, I paired them up with the frames based on kind of the tones in the images, how I felt they tied in with the images. So that was definitely very strong there. With the other sets, I used the same tones in all of the 3 frames over here, kind of like these golds and darker tones, and then the browns on the brighter images. So very much a give and take with the work that I was making and the ways that I found to frame them.
We have another question over here.
For Sarah, for your Heartstrings series, you're talking about the animal posing, and I was wondering if it was a premeditated decision to make them look kind of Renaissance-y. I don't know a lot about art history.
Yes, I'm an art history minor, and I'm very influenced by pre-Raphaelite paintings are my favorite kind of paintings and work produced. And so they use a lot of language pulled from literature and from plays. And I added a glow to them kind of like in post in Photoshop. I love messing around with toning and whatnot in my images. So it was this warm toning and this glow to it that was intentional, yes.
Yes.
Is there any further significance with the colors, specifically pink and blue? They show a lot in these pieces.
For blue, I definitely have always felt connected to the ocean. Not that I've been in a long time, but since I was very young, I believe we definitely have a deep connection to water, probably because we're like mostly made up of water. And so my first one actually was number 5, the pour, and I was asked if they would all be blue. So I just feel like that was probably intentional from the beginning, subconsciously. For the pink, that kind of just happened also. And I feel less affinity for pink. Actually, I used to hate pink, of course. Growing up, girlhood, you're supposed to love pink, so I was like, nah, I don't like pink. But I'm getting along with it now.
We all should be really proud of your endeavors. I really think that your pieces came together really nicely. I think I'm going to stick with the theme of my questions. I just thinking about the sort of surprises or, when you bring the work into the gallery space, like Sarah, you indicated that, you were editing because you thought that you could fit more in. Ari maybe installing determined some things, and Liz you're hanging, what were some surprises with the work with each other? Like it was mentioned that the buoy kind of frames and circular, and there's a lot of symbolism that you all kind of participate in, which is really beautiful to see all together. So just sort of some surprises and or, disappointments or I don't know, whatever happens when we bring it into the gallery space.
Yeah, I can start. A lot of my editing happened in the last 5-6 weeks leading up to this, of kind of setting realistic expectations for myself rather than what I had been doing in the past. I think the largest in-space sort of sacrifice I had to make was my back wall. I initially planned to have the portrait of myself in the middle and then my family kind of encircling me, and then realizing that with the size of the images in the frames that wasn't realistic on the height of these walls, because we would have had a portrait at foot height. And so it was changing it to, and I didn't touch on this in my initial, it's the timeline of my family. So we have my grandma, and then we have one of her sons, my Uncle Jerry, and then his husband, my Uncle David. And then we have my grandma's other son, my dad, my mom, and then myself. So it was this sort of timeline leading across the family.
Cool. I don't know, when I found out that Lizzie was working on circle canvases, I was super excited because my ring buoy was a circle, and I was excited for that theme to kind of be more present. But yeah, just Also, the way that I started framing it when I was installing, I was worried about where I would put it, but it worked out really well.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a happy accident that ours went together so well. Yeah, everything turned out beautifully. I have gotten from a couple of people that they do go really well together. So, you know, curating a show, however concise that was this semester, you have some worries about how the work will interact together, but I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, seeing it all in space has definitely been very delightful for me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, congratulations, y'all.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next gallery.
Sorry, Okay, hi everyone. My name is Adeline Christensen. If you don't know me, I just want to talk a little bit about my thesis show, The Value of Light. Behind me, I have a series of 5 oil paintings, some circles, ovals, and squares, all of which are arranged in a day cycle that goes from dawn to dusk. Each one of these have a special place in my heart, and as well as I wanted to emphasize my personal connection with the sun. I know that doesn't sound very exciting, but the sun does have a lot of benefits to everyone, and everyone does need to go outside a little bit more. So I wanted to emphasize the beauty that sunlight creates, as well as how it benefits me mentally and physically. Starting off with dawn. Dawn is paired along with dusk, which is at the end, as 2 places that specifically me and my father, we would constantly send pictures of the sunrises and sunsets together. So I wanted to keep those paired together as they remind me of my family now that I've moved on to college. As for my second 2, morning and evening, these ones are more based here in Athens, in my house. There are 2 spots that I look at daily, and I just love the way that the sun casts down on the ground, creating shadows that almost look whimsical and not of this world, but in reality it is outside, and I encourage everyone to go out and look for it. In the middle of all of this, I have noon, which is my biggest piece. I took time to sit outside and spend the entire day just out by myself, capturing images on what I think that noon would look like, which doesn't sound very challenging, but out of all of them, my reference for this, I had a personal connection with, just because, once again, the beauty of the sunlight shining on the earth,
was just so immense to me that I had to translate it and present it to everyone else. So hopefully everyone else can feel the same way when they view my art. As said before, this fourth one is evening, which pairs along with morning. This is once again somewhere I view from my house. And it's just a nice reminder that you always have time to sit down and go outside and look at the sunset. It's always good to just slow down and be present in the moment and down to earth. And I think that these two, morning and evening, do a good job of capturing that. And it's a good reminder for myself as well that I can take time to just look outside and reevaluate myself. And it makes me feel a little bit better. My last one, dusk, once again is paired with dawn. This is the back of my house when I lived back in Asheville with my parents. Once again, my dad and I would constantly text each other to look at the sky whenever it shines, whenever it's shines, whenever it's a bunch of pretty colors. We now just take pictures and send them back and forth. However, those times where we would run out to the front porch to look at the sunset or run into the backyard to look at the sunrise, I will always cherish. So I really hope that this cycle can just capture all of these feelings of sunlight and warmth and happiness, because that's their main purpose. And I encourage all of my viewers to go outside and bathe in sunlight, as well as look at the beauty of the earth, because it is all around us, not just in paintings.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle. My work actually follows like a similar theme of just like enjoying what we have, what's around us. But my body of work is called anticipatory grief. Like the grief you feel before the loss actually happens. And I think that's happening. I'm feeling a lot of that in our current day, our current age, especially with all of the government protections being rolled back and all of our environmental protections just kind of thrown out the door. Each of my pieces are like specifically curated to match like specific thoughts and like parts of my grieving process. This piece is called This Too Shall Pass, and it is taken in Star Pass, Arizona. And this is sort of like it's a desert, it's Arizona, it's dry, arid, and this is just kind of like a natural, like, oh, this is what it could be, but it's still trying to find the like worth it moments, and like it's kind of bittersweet in that sense. I take a lot of like sky photos, and so like clouds, like pictures of the clouds, and so that kind of translates in this with a very impressionistic like midday sky. This piece is Overgrown, photo taken in London at the Roman Fort ruins, and this is kind of like a hope, like a hopeful kind of feeling like nature can still grow back, like we still have a chance, kind of thing. Like if this small little patch of greenery and nature can live, why can't we? We just need to fight back and like kind of go against all of the brick that's been placed, all of the bad that's been put before us. And then this piece is A Place of Rest. And this is kind of like a man-made solution, not really working out. Like this was taken in a maritime park. Has good intentions with the trees being placed, because most, if not all of them, are like some kind of memorial trees. This tree, I want to say a cucumber magnolia tree, and it was gorgeous when it was first placed, when it was first growing, but now it's dead. Even in the spring, even in the summer, it's not blooming, if maybe just a few buds here and there, but it's not kind of working out. This is definitely a bittersweet feeling as well. And then this piece right here is washed away in Rocky Mountain, Colorado. And I feel like it's just more of a conclusion to my pieces. It definitely has to deal with the passage of time, with the flowing water and the river, and just time goes on, the cycle of life goes on, and whatever happens, happens. But it's good to enjoy the small moments and the little bits of life, everyday life. But that's my work.
It's a whole piece of work. You could pull the cart way out because it's a whole piece of body of work.
All right, hi guys. My name is Sarah Riley, the other Sarah photo major. And this is my cohesive body of work called Amazon Killed the Mallrats. My work aims to show, good. Yeah. All right, my work aims to show how our good American malls are dying. How a place of where we hang out on the weekends, where we would go to see friends, is dying out. So the pieces go from the most abandoned mall all the way over to the least abandoned mall in that corner. I made a handy dandy directory guide based on an old mall directory. Also, I have right here pieces of debris from each of the mall. One, to prove that I went, and two, to encourage the viewers to pick them up and look at them while looking at each of the malls that they came from. They're in a little protective case so you can't hurt yourself. And then I will really quickly read my artist statement. In Amazon Killed the Mallrats, the exploration of nostalgia, decay, and preservation is shown through analog photographs of failing or dead malls. The parallel between film photography and malls, both of which are being replaced by digital alternatives, feels both poetic and relevant. Paired identical images, one untouched, one decaying, echoes this parallel. The clean prints, which are these ones, depict malls when they were first opened, also serving as a archival documentary photograph, especially because this first mall up here doesn't exist anymore. And the dirty prints went through a process of being left outside and also in my shower to get all disgusting and moldy and gross, illustrating the current state of these once thriving structures. They are reclaimed sometimes by Mother Nature, but more often by capitalism. And yeah, I just wanted to bring awareness to that with my thesis show. So, I got
Where do y'all want to be?
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's impossible to not. I can try to move stuff around.
That's fine, sure.
Sarah, can I ask about the missing photo?
Yes, everyone has asked me about the missing photo. Since these were outside, they were guaranteed to blow away at one point. So I was in class one day and I came back and the photo was gone. I had no clue which one disappeared until I put them up. But I decided to leave it in the entire thing to show how these structures are going away. They're not just decaying, but they are disappearing as well.
I have a question for Adeline. I know that when you're talking about your work, you're kind of like, it's just the sunlight, like blah, blah, blah. Because first of all, like it's not just the sunlight. I feel like with art, especially I feel like with sometimes our thesis projects, like it feels like it has to be like this huge, horrible or amazing thing. Like, how did you get over that just like barrier of like wanting to kind of focus on the more mundane special thing to you?
Yeah, it was definitely a struggle, especially when asked about it, because in my head, it was just like, it's just the sun. But in reality, I wanted to just express that personal connection that I had with it and even like doing like previous research or just like my own personal research, just going outside changes your mental health drastically. Just sitting in the sunshine for a couple minutes a day, which producing this I didn't get to do because I was in the studio the whole time. So call me a hypocrite if you will. But it makes me appreciate the pieces all the more because I do feel like I captured the feeling, and I'm definitely going to spend all of my time outside. So I would advise everyone else to as well, especially everyone else in this room.
After your thesis.
Yes, after thesis.
I got one for Gabrielle and also for Sarah. Gabrielle, first of all, I fucking love this painting. Yeah, it really captures how I feel about the Southwest. It's fucking awesome. Do you have a connection to the location?
It was more of a brief visit. I guess this whole thing was a way to showcase like the opportunities I've had over the past few years and like seeing different places. So I actually went here on like a band trip, but I have kind of formed a personal connection to that sense.
For Sarah, with the weathering on the mall photos, was there any? Some of them I noticed are weathered in different ways. Some of them are crumpled at the sides. Some of them are like completely washed out. One of them is indeed gone, but we already know. Is there any rhyme or reason to why, or is it mostly just like the series that they were weathering?
Really wish I could tell you that there was a reason why. Unfortunately, there's not. I did learn that prints do not get gross in the snow. That is why I resorted to using the wetness of a shower. Because the first three that I ended up doing looked great. I loved them. And then came printing the rest of them. And obviously it wasn't the same weather by the time I finished them. So yes, they all look different. I'm gonna make up some random things and say, yes, it was totally intentional. Each mall is in its own state of decay. So that's what I did.
That's what I love.
Yes.
How do you guys feel about being sort of in the same vein with your work and all being together? Was that part intentional? Did you pick each other?
Yes, it was intentional. At first, we actually had someone else in our group, and then I was like, maybe you should switch out for people who are doing portraits. And then I grabbed Adeline and I was like, you're doing landscapes. We're all doing nature. Let's make a nature themed show.
I think it kind of fits in with our title too. Like,
Yes.
The unnoticed is like just most everyday things that like, oh, we see it, but like we're not really like taking a second look at it.
I have a question for Gabby. So when you are like thinking about these paintings, or even when you're in the moment, do you find that the anticipatory grief is even more overwhelming, could possibly be more overwhelming than the enjoyment that you were having in the moment of the actual painting?
Yes. Yeah. There are moments where it's like I'm just kind of there and then I think about it and I'm like, shoot, that's gonna suck in like 15 years when that actually hits. But then sometimes it's like I notice things. I'll like go out specifically to like just think about it. I guess I don't. Yeah, it's overwhelming sometimes. It can be very debilitating sometimes.
I don't remember y'all talking, I mean, you've talked about photos with your dad exchanging the light, but Gabby, I'm not sure that you mentioned plein air.
Oh,
And
yes.
So like just, if all of you could talk a little bit about sort of your processes.
So I actually didn't really know what I was doing. For a while, my body of work was kind of all over the place. But I've had this feeling for the past, I want to say like 10 years. But I've never really had, like, I guess, realized a way where I could get these feelings out, or like how I can effectively create this work as fast as I want to and still get the point across. And so I actually took a plein air class with David at Palambara last semester, and it was very eye-opening. I appreciated the class a lot. I really look up to David as well, and so it allowed me to be more abstract with my work and more like impressionistic, and not being afraid to just kind of put my brush or my pastel or my tool of choice onto my canvas.
Meanwhile, for me, I've been working, this is a work in progress for the last 5 years. Ever since I was a senior in high school, I fell in love with abandoned places. And for this project, I decided to focus on malls since I absolutely adore mall architecture. And I also grew up in the Rust Belt, so I'm used to seeing abandoned places everywhere, and I realized, not everyone actually like sees those every day. So I wanted to bring attention and awareness to them as well.
I'm really curious.
Well, I already talked about it a bunch, so. Like,
Well, are your pieces, are they painted from
they're all from photographs. Like I mentioned, they're coupled together. The photographs are references between photos between my dad that we've sent back and forth or have noticed. The two oval ones aren't plein air; they are from reference. However, they are still visible to me currently. I don't know if that exactly counts. And like I said, the middle one is just something I sat with for a while to figure out what felt right to me.
Thank you.
Good question.
Gabby, I'm really curious about, like, you use a lot of mixed media. I'm curious about your process of like approaching it. Like, did you have like layers that you were thinking of? Did you have like how did you approach the mediums in particular?
So my 3 works, or the 3 smaller ones, are all like straight onto masonite with a matte medium over it. I started in acrylic because I was like, okay, I know how to use this the most. It's more comfortable. I can layer it as much as I want. And so I did a base coat or a few base layers with that, and then I did acrylic or oil pastel. I did oil and oil paint over that, and I was like, yeah, this is fun. It's bright. I loved how it layered. I have always been obsessed with that like charcoal crayon like pastel texture, and I knew that I wanted that in my work. And I feel like it's a very like natural kind of like grainy just feel, and like having that hands like my like visibly hand marks, like finger marks, like I've smudged it so many times. If I die early, it's because of that. And the chemicals in my that I've just inhaled, I guess. And then my one was a similar way. I struggled up with that one a lot because of how I started it. That was the first piece I actually started. I started that last semester in Brickham, and I did it with, it's still a masonite, but I put raw canvas over that, once again attached with matte medium. And then I tried to seal it so much with acrylic, but I did too thin a layer, and so it just like was soaking up every like bit of acrylic and oil paint that I put into it. And so it was just a lot of trial and error, a lot of layering. I eventually gave up on acrylic after doing like a once over wash again. And then I was just like, screw it. And I definitely enjoy how this one turned out, I think, the most, just because of how much more texture there ended up being. A lot of it attributed to frustration, but I really enjoyed it.
I was going to ask something definitely super similar. I was going to ask how each of your processes connected you to your work, and if you feel like it connected you to your work more or less.
I can go first. With mine, it was definitely a time-consuming process. I know that you saw me in the studio way too much. However, like I had mentioned, it did help me connect more with my work as I went outside. After being in the studio for 10 plus hours a day, I just craved the sunlight even more. So then coming back the next morning and adding another layer of glaze and adding more detail and definition to it, and then going back outside craving that sunlight, it was like a never ending cycle. And now that it's done, like I feel like I am at peace and I can rest.
All right, I'll go. For me, since I've been working on this for 5 long years, I never want to touch another abandoned place again, at least for a 5-year-long break. These definitely connected me with my practice. I was in the dark room for a very long time, so yes, seeing the sun was very nice. I did that, okay. The subject matter being put aside, I do absolutely love darkroom processes. That's why I did so many. I love developing the film and seeing if anything comes out. Thank God everything did. The worst part about doing all of this was definitely enlarging the pictures and making sure that I got 2 of the exact same image instead of like tweaking it in between doing them. Also, these are all on a paper that takes a lot longer to develop than an easier one, and I regret doing that, but I needed to do it to make it look gross, so.
Yeah, I think this whole process it's making me want to do more and like continue this kind of body of work. I might step away from the, grief sense of it for a little bit, but still capturing those moments where I can. I think it's inherent with anything nature related, is just like capturing what you can, appreciating the small moments, and so just like doing it on a smaller scale, where I'm not in my studio for hours at a time and frustrated. I'm just trying to get it done. But
Adeline, did you have any problems painting your pieces? Because I know all the canvases are so different from each other.
I will say the hardest part was trying to make it all level, with it being circles, ovals, and squares, and with this thermostat right here that I've been conveniently standing over. I also noticed a little bit with my oval canvases, because they weren't as thick as my circle ones, that there was a little bit of a draft, so they wanted to shift, so I did have to figure out that a little bit. The circle ones were a bit heavier, so they didn't want to as much. But it took me a little bit, but luckily it didn't take me too long, because I had help of people that had a lot more experience than me.
So any surprises or discoveries from bringing your work in the gallery, and seeing it all together?
I think the cohesion of it just surprised me a lot. Like, it's just one thing talking about it and like placing yourself in a group of people that are doing similar things, but then seeing it all together and like lit up and stuff, the cohesion was very satisfying.
Thank you all. Congratulations.
Thank you all. Join us next week. We'll be doing this again. Same time, same channel. Bye. Have a good week. Thank you.